pleasure to see you both, to meet you, RT. Danielle, we've met previously, so it's nice to see you again. Thank you so much for your time today. I'm so excited to chat with you about this film. RT, I guess I'll start off with you. I know this is your directorial debut, which is so exciting. The title obviously has such a rich historical context and significance to it, and I was very curious if that history was one you always wanted to dive into in some way, shape, or form with film, and two, if you always saw it as like a post-apocalyptic set story.
I mean, look, I'm very, it was instilled in me through my mother, you know what I mean? To really understand our collective history, you know, and as a Black community, particularly, you know, the stuff that you see in the film where Haley is giving the children book reports to do, that comes directly from my mother, you know. So understanding your cultural heritage and the lineage of the knowledge that comes from that is something that's always been part of my life. I'm very interested in stories that take place in the past, and I'm very interested. I'm a genre kid. I'm very interested in stories that take place in the future. So yeah, history is a big thing for me. It was always part of the story. I mean, when we start talking about land and being custodians to the land and an opportunity for a family to be able to work land, the legacy of that is vital. So it absolutely, you know, I'm talking about Black farmers. I cannot not have a connection to you know, the 40 acres unbroken broken promises. But you know, and I wanted to also pay tribute to, you know, the settlers that came up, that escaped slavery, and they came up through the Underground Railroad to Canada specifically, and what they were able to, you know, they were able to get their 40 acres up here. So, you know, all of that informs the story, but I wanted to do something that was informed by that, but then could project, you know, the legacy of that into the future, and have that be the backbone of the family. And so that's where the title sort of comes from. Yeah.
And I'm glad that you mentioned that there very much is a connection with your mother in this film, since as much as it is this post-apocalyptic thrilling set film, it is a mother-son story at the end of the day. So I love that you already mentioned that. Danielle, I know that you are a mother yourself. Was that one of maybe the main elements that really attracted you to this film?
No,
No.
everybody knows that I mother.
You are, yes.
More importantly is like the nature of the family, the greater family nucleus, right? Like the dynamic with Galen, who is played by Michael Greyeyes, his knowledge and his partnership to her, the agape nature of their, you know, partnership, and the way that trickles into the other children in the family. I think that is really beautiful. The other thing is just the ability to fight and activate the body in the way that it gets to be in this space, and to be on the land, and because the land is just as valuable to character as any of the human beings, right? RT and I had conversations about what it means to be connected to land and learning farm ways and whatnot, prior to me coming up to the north of Toronto. And so all of that was brewing in the need and the zeal to come and do this film.
And yes, the land very much takes on a character of its own. I mean, just looking out into the landscape, sometimes you get as scared as if you're standing up against a villain. I mean, you see like ominous, very tall cornfields out in front of you. Danger is lurking in any which way. How is that to I guess, how do you go about capturing that and really infusing that and bringing that into the story and into life as much as any other character on a page?
Yeah, there is plenty to play with when it comes to land and nature. The forest is, I mean, the land is just as unknown as your ability to try to read into the mind behind the eyes of a scene partner or any human being, like for that matter, that you're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. The land is quiet. It can be extremely loud. I remember some nights we would have night shoots and I would just be looking into the cosmos and learning about, oh, that's definitely a star, it's twinkling. Oh, that's a planet, it's very still. And you could just see continuous, like all of that stuff is playing into how you feel. Or, definitely like night shoots is like, when
Yeah.
machines going off. Like, what does that do? The reverberation of it and the need to listen in a certain kind of way. There's a different kind of, there's a groundedness that happens in needing to stand sure-footed, especially when it's land that you know. So Haley knows this land, like in a very specific way. The children know this land in a very specific way. That's why they can handle and play with any BS people trying to come and terrorize their space. And so being one who just enables yourself to be taught by the way that it shifts. There's a very spiritual component when you're talking about how to engage with the land. I've been learning about the moon shifts and changes and how that influences the water dynamic and when you should plant according to the moon. All that kind of stuff, I think, was surely critical in thinking about Black and Indigenous foodways and agrarian ways, and surely impacted, RT, and definitely was learning that from Michael Greyeyes along the way.
RT, would you say very much, kind of similar thoughts in terms of, I guess, just playing with that landscape and finding different ways to continuously infuse it into your just visual storytelling?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, I like to shoot as a director. I prefer to shoot on location.
Yeah.
And knew that I needed to ground the story, as Danielle is saying, with your feet on the ground, moving through this space. There's something that it's difficult to articulate, but it happens when you're there. The land does teach you. And it allows you, if you listen to it, it allows you to kind of let go and learn from it. And that was very much a thing. I had, hundreds of storyboards that like went right out the window once, when we were there, because you understand what you can and you cannot do with this land and how to move through it, and allow it to tell you what the story may need. And it was a beautiful process. And then I think it is something that's spiritual that happens. You also look to care for it. I mean, the land is allowing you to be here and to do this activity with it, but you learn to take care of this land because of that. And I wanted all of that to resonate with the entire cast and the crew. So it was a blessing to be there. Sometimes it was hard, and the weather don't care about nothing.
It does not matter if you are shooting a film or not.
About nothing. So that's something we
Mud, holes.
Yeah. Fog when you want it. Fog when you don't want it. Yeah. So yeah.
Mother Nature is deciding what she wants to feel in the moment. Doesn't matter about anybody else.
Yeah.
His name has already been brought up a few times in this interview, but I did want to ask about Michael Greyeyes and, this beautiful infusion of Indigenous language that is found throughout the film. And I wanted to know if that was very much in collaboration with Michael, him, imparting his ideas throughout the script, if that was already a part of the script. I guess how both of you kind of played and interacted with him and the vast knowledge that he brings.
Well, I'll speak to the script. Like, it was something that we put in the script before Michael was on board. Although Michael doesn't know, but he was part of this project way before Like I start in a very visual way. I come from a music video background, so
Mhm.
my first love, sometimes the images actually inspire a lot of stories. So I had these images, and Michael was one of the first images that I had.
Wow.
Uh, I had him in my sort of deck of my story deck, and I knew that I wanted to do something with this family, this kind of blended family from Black and Indigenous communities. And so he was part of my deck from a long time. But, as the film script sort of developed, it became important that there were, you know, there's a cultural preservation that this family has to do that is besides their physical preservation. Because in this world they may be the only ones that look like them, or that they choose to engage with. So I knew that this family, part of their survival was rooted in sort of preserving their identities very strongly. And so I know if I was going to have an Indigenous component to this, that the language had to be a big part of that. And so I did my research, and I had some of the elements and some of the language that I didn't know the language, but I knew what I wanted it to be
Mhm.
spoken,
Mhm.
the words that I wanted to be spoken. And then when Michael came on board, I gave him, I said, listen, I'm here to learn. You have to tell me what can be said, what can't be said, how it should be said, and if anything else needs to be said. So, and he was very gracious in sharing a lot of details about Cree language with me, and cultural practices as well. So,
Mhm.
but I'll let Danielle speak about, sharing.
No, you did the full lot. I mean, when it came to Michael, I just listened a lot too. And we rapped about dreams and just the Cree interpretation of love.
Mhm.
Mm,
He taught me that term, which was kasagatin, and love is to grow, and love means to grow, and it means to show you yourself. And so I think that's indicative of a lot of the dynamic of just the family. And specifically, we're following Haley and Emmanuel, and love is difficult sometimes,
Yeah.
and it shows you yourself. This maternal son dynamic, and Michael's clarifying of that term. Like, I would think that they are having lots of conversation.
Mhm.
Haley doesn't speak Greek, but Haley is assuredly listening and learning from everything that Galen is bestowing upon the girls as much as she can. Um, and they've been there for a long time at this point.
Mhm.
It's just them. 365, you got something.
That's a little intense at
You got a
times.
lot.
You have to be on tiptoes around each other every so
Yeah,
often.
yeah, yeah.
I would love to know a little bit about some of the training that went into a role such as this. I mean, Haley's a no nonsense kind of woman, and if I came face to face with her, I'm not standing a chance. I'm not going to be standing any chances against her. I would love to know a little bit about, I guess, the training, getting into this woman's mindset, and if all of that was a process that you did quite enjoy doing for this film.
Oh, I enjoy anything that enables me to work on a multi-tiered level.
Mhm.
The deeply emotional component, right, which is just critical in any kind of storytelling. The physical, that really draws me in, which didn't necessarily take a whole lot, considering I jumped in maybe a couple of weeks before production began.
Mhm.
And just moved with the kind of understanding that I already have about physicality, and having had history in doing fight scenes and dynamics, as well as a background in dance. It was my first medium, and so anything that I'm into choreography, right? Like, I'm here for it. And then the spiritual component, like, it's the the nature of the spiritual making of a family, as well as the history of this space, the history from her being a Southern person and being in this Northern space and seeking and practicing liberatory ways in the way that she does, in the way that her and Galen are bestowing to the family. And so it's just survival at the end of the day. I'm just like, oh, I gotta live. I gotta make sure they live. Okay, you're pulling from anything that you have, whatever the resource nature is that you have. Just whip it out. And Danielle is pulling that out. I'm whipping it out. I know this much about rural life. I know this much about being a part of the forest and relying upon it's speaking to you. There's a spirituality to nature as well. I know this much about being a mom. I'm a mom. Hot damn, that is the defining aspect of my life. Like, I have to make sure this person knows what they need to know so that they can defend themselves. And then that internal staleness that may happen in growing and thinking that your way is the only way, that's being internally ruptured and really difficult to break out of. And it takes time to build that, across the making of a film, the full development of an arc. And so that's what that's intuitively what was happening in the midst of filming 40.
Yeah, it really was a very layered, complex character. I mean, maybe on that first opening sequence, we can just kind of see, all right, tough as nails person, but the longer we spend time with her, and really all of these characters, you really get to learn about them. And sometimes we don't always get that when it is a story such as this, where, it's a bad situation. Everyone's kind of trying to survive, but I commend both of you on being able to show that humanity through and through in so many different ways. One more thing for you, Danielle. I don't know if you've been following, but all week they've been releasing the New York Times best films of the 21st century list. And they just spotlighted a quote that you had regarding Moonlight. And you said that the way that it captures Black boyhood and Black manhood in this very tender way and just beautiful way is something that stood out to you about that film. And that's something that I really love about this film in particular, when we get to see Emmanuel going out to explore the river, or just seeing another young woman in front of him, and he's so entranced by this heavenly figure in front of him. I would love to know, I guess, your reaction to seeing some of those quieter moments in this film, and just in general, I guess, getting to work with Kadam on this.
I am always captured by quiet moments, right? Just him walking or him preparing, the solitudinous things that one does. I could correlate a lot of the things that my son has started to do as a teenager to, Emmanuel is going through, wanting to be physically fit, wanting to define their sonic, ear, right? He's listening to old school music, which would definitively be old school music in an apocalyptic world. I am listening to, okay, he's got an affinity for history. Just wanting to be alone, wanting to explore nature, having an appreciation for ancestors, and that he is sitting next to his grandfather's grave. The way he has his naivete is deeply tender and sweet, even though it's fighting against everything that he has been taught by his mother. The way that he actually cares for the young woman, I think those things are beautiful. Those are critical things that we need to be open to seeing young men explore outwardly, publicly. It was tough, in one of the critical scenes where, they're butting heads, and she realizes that his physicality has usurped hers.
I know.
or maybe the need, I just can't fight with you like this. This isn't fruitful in this moment. and him being open and saying, I don't know how, I don't know how, I don't know how, right? In all these ways, that is not a bad thing. Ignorance is not always this willful stubbornness. Sometimes I just don't know, and they need to be able to say, I don't know, and also be open to learning. I think that's just really significant. And Haley is tender too. You know, everybody likes to say, oh, you always play these badass figures. Yes, and she's tender in the recall that she has about how her and Galen came together.
Yeah.
She's tender, even though her baby just killed a man and shot him in the face. Oh, don't you waste those bullets, girl. You know, like that there are so many colors to Emmanuel and Haley and the entire family. And seeing that and really like locking in on those truths is just as critical as seeing them slice a cannibal's head. So yeah.
They got it on lock. They have everything on lock in this household. Well, again, it just goes back to, again, constantly showing that humanity, which RT, I truly commend you for that. And amazing work already on your first film. I'm very excited to see what you do. And Danielle, I'm always happy to see you in anything on my screen. So I'm very excited to see what you do next too.
Thank you very much, Emma.
Of course.
Wait, no, you RT, come on.
Yes, get to writing. Time to stop.
Yeah. Just let me put this one out, okay?
Yeah. I have to wrap up with both of you, but it's been such a pleasure to chat with you. Thank you so much for your time. And yes, very excited to see what comes next for both of you.
Thank you very much.